Now in our program, we seek direction for our work as Democrats in this coming year. We're going to open it up to all the participants to share your views about your lessons learned from the November 3rd election and events since then, as we seek direction for our work this coming year. You may build on what our panelists have shared, or you can speak specifically to this question. Now, with a Democratic president, Democratic Senate, and Democratic House, how, as Democrats here, do we message to reach more people going forward, especially those who do not or did not see us as speaking to their critical concerns? Are there any people who would like to take that on? Can you hear us?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name's Amy. I just read something recently that talked about distinguishing values from beliefs. And values is something that a lot of us share, but we have different beliefs. So it made me think about that in regards to the messaging, how we could maybe focus on the shared values and show what we have more in common than we have uncommon.
Well, thank you very much, Anne. I think a lot of us have had that same question. So we're going to go on now to Lisa Petrell. Lisa?
Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen. I have an awesome story to tell, and I think it addresses a really best case as an example. And this once again goes to Ipsy Can I Share. It starts at the in the election where 2018, when Jeff Irwin wanted to put a sign in front of a community center in Ypsilanti. And Gail took up this opportunity to make this a meaningful interaction. And she challenged him and he said, why do you want to put a sign on our lawn, and we'll vote and we'll show up and vote. But then when the election is over, what are you going to do for us? Jeff made a commitment that he would stay in touch with this community center, and he has made true to it. So either he or one of his staff persons attends this meeting, as does some key people within the Washtenaw Party, which is another reason I think the Washtenaw Party is awesome, because we're willing to do the grassroots work. But anyway, he goes to these meetings month after month. And at one of the meetings during COVID, they decided to take the opportunity during this downtime we need to freshen up the place. So they were going to repaint it. And who shows up to, in his, jeans and everything, just to paint. And I learned about this, not because it was a photo op, not because he took staff to take a picture of him and then he posted it on his Facebook page, look at me, I'm doing good in the community. It's just something he just did naturally. I heard about it by word of mouth. The community, when I happened to be in the community, again, people were saying, we repainted our center, and who helped us? Jeff helped us. Jeff showed up and painted. I'm going, wow, that's, walking the talk. So it wasn't any money spent. It wasn't a TV ad. It wasn't a promo. It wasn't a social media campaign. It's doing what I think Gail is trying to cultivate. You need real, meaningful interactions of the people who are already elected in office. And this community that interfaces around that community center all of a sudden had a greater confidence that the people who they voted for was going to do something for them. And I think something can be gleaned from that experience to be brought forward to all our elected officials, because it means something, it has tangible results. So that's the story, yay, Jeff, and double yay if we can get other people to kind of emulate that. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Lisa. Great thought. Now I'm going to turn it over to, just a second now, I lost him again. To the Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice. Not sure who that is, but you can talk now if you're still there.
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi,
we can hear you.
hi everyone. This is Desiree Simmons. Happy to be
Uh-huh.
here. And yeah, I was asking, or I was thinking about the presentation that Ingrid just did. Thank you for a lot of those numbers. I've been looking at some of those here locally. I'm in Ypsilanti, and been doing some work here. One of the things that I noticed, I mean, I think that there was, I know some of the work that we were doing with ICPJ and some other organizations we were collaborating with, we're doing a lot of flyering and different kind of things in Ward 1, in part also because there was multiple candidates locally. So when you're talking about like organizing locally, one of the things that I've noticed is how the participation grows or shrinks based on whether there's any local competition on the ballot. And so Ward 1 was the only ward that had competition at the local level. And so I think that definitely drove some participation there. And then I also have noticed, looking back even at the midterm, looking at the primaries, and seeing where there were upticks based on the candidate. So when Ellie Savitt was on the ballot, seeing where there were big upticks in participation in Ward 1, there was a big uptick there, as well as some parts of Ypsi Township, like where Apple Ridge is and a couple of other housing developments. So that's just something I've been looking at as well, is when thinking about participation and how that is moving here locally too.
Thank you very much, Desiree. That was really great. Now I'm going to turn it to Zach Persilli.
Yep. Hi. So I'm Zach Persilli. New to getting involved with all of the local issues and stuff like this. So some of my stuff's probably going to be a little more broadly speaking, more nationwide stuff. But kind of ties into what Lisa was talking about. So some of the things that I've seen that I think definitely could be improved is making the message more about the policies that are going to be directly affecting the people. I know some of the things, along with the work Stacey Abrams did in Georgia, but one of the things I saw that was a big positive was the support of the $2,000 direct checks. I know that was a huge thing. And then also one of the things I heard from Chuck Rocha down in Texas was he was talking about Hispanic people down there voting for Trump, and their reasoning was, well, I got a check with his name on it. So I think doing things like that directly affect the people is going to be something that can make a huge difference, instead of, and on top of, versus the, oh, we're Democrat, we're Republican. No, it's we're directly going to help you and we're going to follow through with this, and doing stuff like that versus more of the identity stuff, which can be a little bit, but I think more directly effective policies can be a big role in getting more people to vote Democratic.
Zach, I agree with you. That's terrific. Thank you very much. Next, I'll call on Janet Cannon.
There we go. Hi, good afternoon, good morning still, everybody. I just wanted to mention, I'm hearing people coming forward with concerns about messaging and with, how do we communicate to people? And I would really urge you to reach out to either precinct organizing or to the New Voice committee and to communications. We are looking for people who want to collaborate on that very question. So please get in touch with us.
Okay, thank you very much, Janet. Next is Kevin O'Brien. Oops. Kevin, I'm going to have to promote you to panelist. You're mute.
Brian, you are muted.
Unmute.
Kevin, I mean.
Excuse me, Kevin. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I get that all the time. I just wanted to comment on some issues that I'm seeing looking at the data here. It is very obvious that there are a lot of people who voted for Biden who also voted for Republicans. And particularly, you know, we came very close to losing the House of Representatives. It's a desperately slim margin there now. We only have the Senate because the vice president can cast a tie-breaking vote.
Right.
This is not an overwhelming vote of confidence in the Democratic Party, I don't think. And I think Zach is on the right track when, you know, let's take a look at what kind of messages we put out there. You know, I think there are a lot of people who said, I had enough of Trump, but I don't trust the Democrats. And this is nationwide, I'm saying. And one of the ones that jumps out at me because I've looked at the polling is defund the police. And any political candidate who says that is committing political malpractice, in my view. It is just so phenomenally stupid. People don't like it. And they, you know, they get into the voting booth and say, well, you know, am I going to vote for this Republican or am I going to vote for someone who wants to take the police away? And then we lose. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, Kevin, I think a lot of people share your concerns. So now next we will, whoops, just a second here. I'm going to unmute Margaret S. Margaret, can you?
Okay, yep, I'm here. Okay, so I just wanted to comment on what Ingrid said, and also if Lavora had still been here, this is kind of a question for her. The way we look at data, the way we look at turnout is so misleading because a percentage of registered voters is almost meaningless. There's 15% of those people who actually in urban areas, in more dense areas, who are not living there and are not taken off the rolls. So for example, there are 2,000 kids currently registered at Markley Hall, right? You can look at it right now, and there's only room for 1,000 kids there, and only 500 were there today. So I'm wondering if going forward we can look at you know, increase in voters versus, you know, population increase or whatever. The rural districts, they one of the reasons that you have a high turnout is because they people live there for generations. You know, I don't so I think those are unfair comparisons. Also with the students not being here in Ypsilanti, they are in some of those wards are heavily student and they don't change their registration when they leave. And if they go out of state, they don't come off the rolls. Even if they're voting in another state, they don't come off the rolls. So there's that. And then there's the question for the statewide party is just how do we clean up our lists so that we can reflect that. And I saw that Jocelyn Benson had mentioned some laws that we might have that might empower her to do a better job with our lists. So I just want to, my point for this meeting is just to caution us that I'm not sure that those measures show that we necessarily did worse based on people's interest in this election. I think it's more complicated than that. That's all I had to say.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to turn it over quick.
All right, Kathleen, can I address that a little bit?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so I figured somebody might ask this question. So I talked to the Washtenaw County Clerk's Office, and I spoke to, oh shoot, I don't remember his name now. But the numbers that I showed you on the presentation, where we had the registered voters for 2020, the number that I showed you of 319,115, those were the registered voters as of the Monday. So those were up to date. And they work actually very hard to keep those numbers up to date. And how they do that is they go through, and if you have not voted in 2 election cycles, they send out notices, and they remove you, is what, well, is I'm not sure they remove you, but they do work hard to update your, the voter rolls. And the other thing they do is not all states participate, but they have a system called ERIC, where they cross-reference out-of-state records with other states. So it's not like there's no system in place to update these records. So it's not like this, because I asked this question too. I thought these numbers seemed really high, right? When you look at the comparison of what they're saying, the estimated population of Washtenaw County is 370. And if you look at the data for the census records for children, which is 18%, when you look at that, okay, is every single person in Washtenaw County registered to vote? Probably not, right? We know that. We haven't got everybody registered. So there's definitely some error here, but they are working on it. So I just wanted to let you know that there is some systems in place, and that that's what they shared with me.
Thank you, Ingrid. And now we're going to go to Kevin Karpiak.
I know.
Hi, thanks for hearing me.
I tried to get you earlier.
Oh,
Gail Summerhill, please mute yourself. Gail Summerhill, please mute yourself.
I just wanted to quickly ask one question about how, so seeing those statistics about voter turnout, it's not clear to me how we make the link between those results and this being a question of messaging versus, for example, other kinds of things like the nature of the kind of voting population that we've been talking about a little bit, or about kind of the mechanisms for how we get people to the poll, like physically to the poll, not about the messaging, but just about how we could get, make sure people can get off of work, make sure people are actually local here instead of back home with their families or something for students. Like how do we make the connection between the voter turnouts and the causal effects of those? I think we probably need to pause a little bit more over before we go into messaging. But having said that, if we do want to talk about messaging, I also don't see any evidence that a more moderate toning back of righteous justice convinces anybody. I know this is a popular argument that defund the police was somehow terrible for Democrats. Okay, background, I'm a professor of criminology who teaches policing. So I have some background in this. What Dana Nessel told us today terrified the living hell out of me, right? And it was also the best argument I have ever heard for abolishing the police. If we cannot make that clear to people, the problems, and if we're scared to tell people about those problems, they will not react in a trustful way to us, right? So I don't think it's helpful to think about what, whether it's a popular message or not. 2 years ago, Black Lives Matter was not a popular message that polled well, right? Now everybody says it, right? That's not how righteous justice works, in my opinion. And so I don't think it's a helpful path to go down. And I'm not even sure messaging is at all the issue. But that's my last 2 cents in here, which is not exactly on this turnout thing, but just again, I said in the comments or the chat, but I don't think everyone got a chance to see it. there was some talk about who appointed the director of the Michigan State Police and what we can do to kind of address some of the things that we were hearing about police not wanting to do their jobs, especially when the lives of some of our elected officials are at risk. Definitely the director of the MSP is one place to look. Another is MCOLS, which is I'm forgetting what it stands for now, the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards. It's a statewide body, mostly involved with the Michigan State Police, but actually through funding actually affects even local police departments in a lot of ways. It's another kind of place to keep our sights. For the first time this last year, I believe, Governor Whitmer put, for the first time, citizens on the board. It had been only law enforcement professionals on it. Now we have 3 citizens. One of them, Washtenaw County's own Lisa Jackson, Dr. Lisa Jackson, whose term is up. So we might want to kind of do something where we support her reappointment to the position, and that she's the only actually trained certified professional on the board at all. So there you go. There's my 2 cents.
Okay. Janet Cannon. Janet? Can you
Hi,
hear
I'm sorry. I think I just forgot to unmute. But I would like to just say something that I think that when we talk about that particular issue about the phrase defund the police, I do agree that it's very badly chosen and that we need to have a much more grounded dialogue about how we can remove the power that is empowering structures and habits and mindsets that are destructive, that we should not be paying for police to do what they're currently doing. But we definitely need a better way to talk about it in much more detail for it to work for people. That's all I would say.
James McCarter.
I'd like to, can
Okay.
you guys hear me? Can we hear me? I was just going to jump in and this is Teresa Reed again to second Kevin's comments and Janet's as well. Although I think that what's really important to remember is that there is no, we're a big party. We're a big tent party. I mean, there is no blanket messaging that's going to work across the board. Except for possibly race class narrative messaging, which is, if you don't know about, you know, we all should know about race class narrative messaging. But I think, you know, defund the police works real well in AOC's district, but, you know, would be deaf in Melissa Slotkin's district, right? So I think we need to be much more careful about thinking about what kind of messaging, what are the, as Kevin put it, what are the sources of the problems that we're seeing? And not jump to, oh, we have to be moderate, because I agree with Kevin that that's not, I love that phrase righteous justice. That's all, sorry.
Yeah. Eli, could you tell me who it was that's got their hand up here?
Suggesting you call him James McCarter. So he's had his hand up for some time. Actually, just took his hand down.
Oh.
And then well, it's going up and it's going down. Then there's Megan Friedman.
James McCarter.
Try Megan Friedman. Megan Foster Friedman. Her hand is up.
You know, I don't see it on mine.
She's one of the attendees, so near the top.
Oh. Kathy Griswold, I see you've appeared here. Did I?
Yes, and I just want to acknowledge all of the wonderful work that Congressman Debbie Dingell has done. before the election, after the election, and keep her in our thoughts and prayers as she faces this jaw surgery next week.
Okay.
So thank you. Just good thoughts, and I really appreciate the conversation. And I have to say, some of the questions I was going to ask, other people asked them, and we got good answers. So thanks for a great discussion.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, James, whoops.
Thanks, Kathleen. Would you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna float 3 different ideas, please. First is, I really appreciated Lavora Barnes' comments about essentially having rapid response to misinformation. And there is one element of that that I personally don't think gets discussed enough. So I want to put it out there as a marker. We have the role of the media, including the social media, as well as the conventional media. And I don't hear enough conversation about how to resolve the First Amendment free speech right with the conventional medias, like Fox News, for example, promulgating of outright lies and misinformation. So how that integrates with Lavora Barnes's rapid response idea, I think is important, not just response to what's coming out there, but how do we address what the media is putting out and is precipitating that response in the messaging realm that others have spoken to. A second marker I'd like to put out there for 2020 in particular was my own experience with calling and door knocking here, as well as remote calling for Georgia, was that there was a huge increase in solicitations for dollars and voter action through phone, text, and email in this last cycle. And I am concerned that we were heightened enough in our in seeing the importance of this election that we went at those things whole hog. I think we saturated those channels. I know for me, as a strong Democrat, mine were saturated. I was getting tens of emails a day soliciting money and tens of texts a day soliciting effort. So going forward, I'm thinking, okay, other thoughts on this is something I think that we would need to review looking forward to changes for 2022 and 2024, at least consider it. Also, a third thing on the data and how we respond with strategy going forward, and this is partly in response to Margaret. If you look at the further broken down data for Washtenaw County, the highest turnout rate in Washtenaw County was actually a district that was won by the Republicans. Their turnout rate was 88%. The lowest turnout precinct in the county was a Democratic district at 28%. And while I recognize this is not a simple issue, there is no single issue, be it student district, non-student district. There are multiple reasons why this happens. And I think this is really worth a deep dive. So we have some data experts. Dirk, I know you're on this call and you've got a lot of thoughts on it. You know, I have a lot of thoughts on it. There are many others out there who are more capable than I am to help analyze these and then translate that into strategies on the ground. But when we have such a huge differential in turnout between the top and the bottom across the county, that is a huge potential vote lost. And I think we really need to figure out how can we go after bringing some of these lower percentage districts up to at least the average, so that we rate, I mean, I know that raises the average and all that, but bring them up to what was the 2020 average, and through strategies that make sense for the particular areas that are involved. And it's not a one size fits all thing. As Laura, I think it was, said, you're not going to convince people in rural Black areas to respond to young white volunteers from Pennsylvania. So figuring out this integration of understanding data, how that works with messaging, and how that works with strategy going into 2022 and 2024. I'm just putting those markers out there for those three issues. And thank you, Eli, for helping to get me on.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So I'd just like to say we won't have a time to pull up those other people who have raised their hand. But maybe we can do this again sometime at another meeting and give people a chance to participate. This has been really great for people being able to participate. So I thank all of you for this discussion. And I'd like to ask Jessica and Chris, if you'd like to have the final word.
Go ahead, Jessica, if you want to take us out.
Thanks, Chris. I don't think that, I have anything to add that our very wise presenters and community members haven't already said today. It's just clear that this is a continuing conversation, continuing efforts. We're just getting started with what it means to live in this strange new reality. So thank you all. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay engaged, and we'll get through this together.
I will say that, there's going to be more and more opportunities for people to be involved with the Washtenaw Dems and also the clubs, the Ann Arbor Dems, Eastern, Western Washtenaw Dems. So, make sure you're signed up for our email list, stay informed about what's going on. Our real intent here in this organization is to build out teams of people who are passionate and talented in specific areas so that they're working on the things that they really get, excited about. And with an organization as complicated and complex as ours is, there's something for everybody. So we'll be working very hard to do that. I just want to one more time remind folks that we will be having a major leadership vote for the state party. That includes leadership of the congressional districts, of the MDP chair, and of the caucuses. So that's happening on February 20th. It will be a virtual meeting. You need to sign up for it. So we'll be sending out links about that, as well as the MDP will do that as well. If you want to vote, and we really do need people to show up to vote, because if you like, if you think that Lavora is doing a good job and that her team is leading this party in the right direction as I do, she will need your vote. There are people who are looking to replace her, and so we need as many people at that conference or that convention as we possibly can to support the great work that she's done. The deadline to sign up for an MDP membership in order to be eligible to vote is February 20th. So if you need to check the status of your MDP membership, then send me an email or reach out to us through our contact page and we will check your membership for you. Unfortunately, the MDP doesn't have a way for you to check yourself, so you will need to ask us for that and we can check for you. So at any rate.
Chris, did you mean to say January 20th? February 20th is the date?
February 20th, yeah, February 20th is the
meeting.
Is the convention, and January 21st is the deadline. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
I flipped around. Thanks for that. But it is really essential that we all turn out, and we all have opinions about the leadership and the direction of the party, and these conventions are the time when we can have a role to play in what that looks like. So with that, I'll send it back to Kathleen to finish this up. Or maybe that is it.
I'll just say,
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're going to have to end it now.
Bye,
See you
everybody.
next month. Bye-bye.